Alrighty, good morning everybody. So, my name's Michael, welcome back to the channel. I'm just on my way now to go and grab the trailer so I can go and pick up a diesel generator that I found on Marketplace, everyone's favorite bargain store. If you know what you're looking for, you can find some really good stuff on Marketplace. But this particular generator is a bit of a diamond in the rough, I think. It is, it's had a bit of a hard life outside from what I can see from the photos. It's listed as engine running, but not making power. So it's gonna be a good one to dive into and see what's going on. I've got Nim in the truck with me. She's coming for a ride. I'm gonna get some breakfast first, and then the next time you see me, I'm gonna be unloading the generator. So stick around, enjoy it, and I'll see you soon. So this looks aftermarket, a bit rusted. Can't even read the volts meter because it's so sort of foggy. I've got to get a battery for it, but for the moment I'll just run up with one that I've got. But this all needs a clean out in here, so I think I'm just going to start by taking off the panels on the outside so I can get in and give it a good clean. Make sure that he's going to catch on fire when it gets up to running temperature. Have a good look around. Let's get stuck into that. Oh, look at the mess. Wow, I'm going to close up of that. Why you always check things. But that's just all dirt on the muffler. Okay, let's get all that cleaned out. Actually not too bad condition in that. It's good. Alright, I'm just gonna drain this fuel tank. I don't know what the diesel's like in it. The guy did start it for me when I was there, but I'd rather not risk Not risk it if I don't have to. Fuel tank doesn't look too bad. I'll give you a view in there in a second. Hopefully you can sort of see in there. There's a bit of stuff in there which I'll be able to get out. Alright, I'm just lifted one end of it, as you can see. Trying to get as much of this out as we can. I don't know if you can see it or not, if the camera picks it up, but basically the whole bottom of that up to about my finger is just full of sediment. I'll take it off now and drain it. Have a bit of a look. So that one's, I feel like that's the wrong way around, but anyway. Oh, definitely not the wrong way around. There's a crack in the bottom of that. That's sediment build up. Have to get that out of there. Clean as a whistle. That's what was in that fuel filter. It's pretty bad. And it's basically what looks like what's in the bottom of the tank as well. So that's going to have to be cleaned out. But I've cleaned that filter housing out now, so I know there's no water or anything like that in there. I'll clean the tank out. I am going to have to flush that again though, once I get a bit of fresh diesel in there to clean out the lines. So I'm just going to drain the oil out. I've just sat the unit up on some blocks just to make it a bit easier because it sits so low to the ground. And I'm just going to slide my Once Upon a Time paint tray under here because it's the perfect size, and undo that bolt, let it drain. I don't know if you can see the flow there, it's pretty slow. I'm just going to try and speed it up a bit by using my fingers to block off the dipstick hole and put a bit of compressed air in there, increase the flow. drained the oil. It's actually not too bad, especially for a diesel. There's a bit of crap in this tray before I started anyway, but no water or anything, which is a good sign. Sure, a few people have noticed and will probably comment that I didn't start the generator first, so I wouldn't have got all the oil out. I'm aware of that. If you are doing a regular oil change, you should always warm up your engine and then change the oil. But in this case, like I've said, I don't want to start the engine yet until I can sort of get a bit of an idea of what's happening with it. So I'll put some fresh diesel oil in this now, and that way I know it'll be ready to go. I don't actually know how much this takes, so I'm just going to put it in and then check the dipstick until I'm happy with the level. But, you know, for something that's been sitting for a while, that's actually not too bad, that oil. That is the worst spot for that. I can't get the thing in there properly. Right, so I've changed over that oil, topped it off. Now, it looks a bit weird, but I've stuffed 4 rags down into there. Can't really see that one, but that you can. Just to soak up the remainder of the diesel. Put a look in there. And then once that's soaked up, I'll be able to just put the vacuum in there and get all the crusty bits out. So I'm just going to let that soak overnight, come back tomorrow. I'll get out those rags and clean out that tank, and we'll be getting pretty close to firing this thing up. Battery is a little bit taller. It was hard to find the right spec, but I wanted something that had a good cold cranking amp rating on it for when this has to start, and something with good storage, so that'll be fine. I just might have to modify that bracket. It holds it in. It'll take me 10 minutes to do that. See if we got contact. Got contact. All right. See, I'm gonna fish these out of here. I was actually thought I had. Everyone would have seen them. The little claws, little spring claws that you can get. Push the button and they sort of open it. Open at the end and they grab things, or vice versa. Had one. I can't find it. I don't know where it's gone. Be perfect for this application. Better. The paint thing that dedicated itself the other day, the cause, the roller has now dedicated itself as well. Look at that. I'm sure I put 4 in there. There is the 4th one, there it is. Actually, there's no more in there, which there isn't. Looks like we got most of the grubs out, although I am just going to hit that with the vacuum. Right, so I put a bit of diesel in it that I had in the shed. Come with a little bit in the sight glass. I don't know if it'll be enough or not to get it running, but let's just see what it wants to do. So it's good, started up all right. Sounds like it might be starving a bit for diesel, which that fuel filter's only just filling up a little bit. So I'll let that fuel up and then come back and try that again. All right, so sit rep, as you saw, it started, it ran, and then it sort of ran out of fuel. Trying to start it now for the past couple of minutes with the camera off. It doesn't want to start. I've cracked the injector line and I've got no fuel coming to the injector. There is some sort of electric sending unit that controls the fuel. So I'm going to have to take the 4 screws out of this, rip this off, and have a bit of a look behind it because the wiring comes up here. I just want to make sure that I haven't broken a switch or something behind there that's telling that to actuate. So that's my thought process at the moment. I'm going to stick with it, but let's have a little look and see. Very interesting. All right, welcome back. It is a couple of days later. I've got my battery on charge. As you can see, I've got this cover off, mainly just to give it a clean in behind the cover, but as you saw last time, and as I said, it wasn't starting, so I actually just bled the fuel system, took off the fuel line and got the air out of it, and then went again. Now, I have tried off camera to see if we have a volts reading, and we don't. I've looked at both this meter, which doesn't work, and I also had my multimeter in the active and the neutral on that leg, on that outlet there. The voltmeter was only hooked up to the 3-phase, so if I was going to get anything, I would have either got 380 or 400 volt output, which is fine. But I was sort of a bit bemused as to why I wasn't getting anything. And the power heads do go on these, and there are heaps of videos about that sort of stuff. But I thought I wanted to have a bit more of a look into the power head and the wiring, and I'll show you what I found. But when I took off, so this is the power head, exhaust is separated by a heat shield. When I took off the cover, I noticed this. That neutral wire is not connected to anything. And there's a leg there that it should be connected to. Now that was sitting on that case, and when I tested it, I had a connection from, I had a connection to ground through the neutral. So I'm going to plug that back in again and start it up and see if that makes any difference at all. I've just noticed as well in here is that this looks like it's been apart at some stage, so I just want to take these off and have a bit of a look around, see if there's any other wires in there. That didn't change anything starting that. I still got my 4 volts out of a 240 volt outlet. So let's dive a bit deeper and see what we can find in here. A lot of these are missing. That's missing a screw. That's missing a screw. Starting to lose a little bit of hope here that this might be rescuable. It looks like someone's pulled it apart in the past. Had a bit of a scratch around, but let's keep going. So that there. All these wires look okay. I'm tempted just to try and find a new one of these as well. The other thing that we can do is we can test the windings for resistance to ground and see if there is anything in there that's gone astray. I might do that one at a time. is I got a new AVR for here, the voltage regulator. So I'm going to change that over, and also there's a rectifier up in here. You can't really see it from this angle, but up in there, I got a new one of those too. So I'm just going to change that over and see how that goes. We'll start this up and see what it does. I just want to check to see if the brushes have got a negative and positive side on them, to see if, just make sure, I should say, that I'm putting that AVR in the right way around. Oops. What's that got us that fucked up? Okay, so we've got positive there, you can just see it, positive, and minus this side. Okay, that's great. Click this back together again. Yellow, yellow, blue, blue. Okie dokie. This plug's different, maybe. Not really. Oops, there we go. Just needs to be lined up a bit better. That's all. Okay, so that's plugged in there. All right, I'll just work on getting all these back together again, and then we'll turn it over. All right, so I've got that all buttoned up again, which is good. Colors match, everything's going back together. Just haven't tied these back completely yet, but I think for the minute, just for us to test it, it's going to be good to go. So let's just turn it on, or start it up I should say, and then we'll see what happens. Well, she's running really well, but not making power still. So we'll have to do a bit more digging. So as you saw, had no power. I just want to test so 0.3 resistance static. I just want to test to see. So 6.7 through the brushes is not too bad. That's the concern. So basically got a connection to ground, which we shouldn't have. So I'm going to take off, it could be terminal for this, because basically there should be isolation between the rotor, which is what spins in the middle, and then the stator basically on the outside, or the winding on the outside. So could I have tested this earlier? Yeah, I could have. I actually did a little bit of testing off camera, like I said, and I did think that I had a connection to ground. I also had a bad set of leads on the multimeter, and when I tested them to a few other things, they were tripping out as well. So now I've got new leads on there, and I've done a couple of tests. I'm potentially thinking that this is not going to be salvageable, which is really disappointing, but that's what happens when you go for these sorts of projects. But I'm going to take off the AVR again, and I'll disconnect the windings, and I'm going to take off the power head so I can have a look at the rotor inside and see if we can see anything happening in there. You always need a reciprocal blade that'll cut round corners. Oh yeah. So the reason I had to cut them off is because I can't get anything underneath them to get to it. The bolts are stuck in there. I need to get this casing off, so there's just no other way of getting to it, unfortunately. All right, so where are we at? As you'd see in the earlier clips, engine's running beautifully now. I've had it running over the last couple of days, on and off, getting hot, heat cycling it, and it's actually running really well, which is, it's great. That's really what I wanted to see. When it comes to electrical generation side of this, I've been running a few tests on it, and it had me a bit baffled as to what was happening. I checked resistance in both my legs. I checked resistance through the windings. Everything was within tolerance. Like, it was at the higher end, but it was still within tolerance. There was no red flags as to why we wouldn't be producing 240 volts. This is a 240 volt generator, also with a 3-phase, which is 300 to 400 volts as well. But I was only getting about 100 volts ish coming out of it, and it would be 0, 100, 0, 100, and it was just flicking around. I didn't really get any footage of it because I was trying to troubleshoot off camera, but it was just flicking, basically like a heartbeat. And it got me thinking as to why it would be doing that. So what I've done here, I'll stop you looking at me in a minute. Well, I'll stop talking and I'll show you what's happening down here. But I have worked out what's wrong with it, and unfortunately, it's terminal for this generator. It's not going to produce power with this power head that's on it now. I'll show you how I found that out. But there's no reason that I can't put another power head on this generator, and that's probably what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to get another power head off a generator with a blown engine and put it on here. They're pretty universal. Like, you can get them to bolt up pretty easily. But I'll show you now what I've done, and it was only when I was having a sip of my coffee that I saw why this generator doesn't make power. So, as you can see, I've got the case off the power head here. So, there's two parts of a generator. You have your rotor, which is the internal part, which spins. That's what's hooked up to your engine, that directly correlates to engine speed. And then you've got your stator on the outside. So basically, you have low voltage or 12 volt put through your two wear rings here, via brushes. That creates a magnetic field on the rotor, and then when the rotor is spinning, it creates electricity, for as a very basic explanation. So when we're spinning, we're creating a current. That current is then transferred via your wirings through your leg 1, leg 2. Now, I did notice that on the bearing here, and it's a little bit hard to see, if I turn this light on, it's going to flicker because it's an older style LED, but I did notice there was some wear on the back of the bearing here, and you can just see it where my thumb is. I'll get you in a little bit closer, try and keep it so the light's on there for you. bit closer. Hopefully you can see. Wow, that's horrible. Back a bit. Move you out a little bit. Hopefully you can see that and it'll focus. See on the back of the bearing, if I do this, might be a bit better. Just here. I was like, what's happening with that bearing? That's bizarre. It had me a little bit baffled. And then I took a sip of my coffee, like I said, and I saw that in here, there's a heap of wear that's happened inside that ring where the bearing sits. Now that should not have damage inside it. And then when I looked a bit further out, I saw that break and I saw that break. Now that got me thinking, if that bearing is wobbling around inside the housing, that would mean that the rotor is basically moving around like that. That rotor cannot touch the stator. Otherwise what happens is you get an arc and it will basically kill it. What I have now is I have movement between the rotor and the stator. That has been doing that, and if I can't show you on camera because you'll never be able to see it, but there are scuff marks on the inside of the stator where the rotor has been hitting it. So that is why this generator will never make power again with this power head, which it's unfortunate, but it's also good that I've managed to work out why it's not working. And that doesn't mean that this is a throwaway unit by any means. The power head, that can go. I'll scrap that copper, get a little bit of money for it, and then find a new power head, mount it up in here. We might have to make a bracket, but hey, you win some, you lose some. The best part about it is I know why this generator won't work anymore. The other way I confirmed also that the rotor and the stator were touching was I did a continuity test with the multimeter, and if anyone is, I'll just explain that quickly so I'm not talking gibberish. So on your multimeter, which we have here, I'll turn the camera around so that you can see it. So on the multimeter, turn that on, you have this setting here. Now it looks different on a lot of multimeters, but it's a continuity setting. And what is continuity? Continuity is the ability for electricity to run between one wire, one device. It's basically there's a connection. So at the moment we have OL, overload, no connection. If I touch my pins together like this, I get a tone and I get a reading. Now that reading of 0.2 is 0.2 ohms of resistance. So what that's saying is resistance is measured in ohms. You can have a look on Google if you really want to understand how that works, but there is 0.2 ohms of resistance. So another way I like to explain it is if you had a garden hose and you didn't squash it and it was just flowing, we'll call that no resistance. If you get that hose like this and you were to put a kink in the hose, you are creating resistance. So that is what the multimeter is measuring, how hard it is for the electricity to travel through the wiring, circuitry, the outlet, all that sort of thing. So generally speaking, you want low resistance levels, so that way it's not hard for electricity to travel. But in circumstances like a rotor and a stator, you can get 60 to 100 ohms resistance in some applications. All of these generators do have a, turn you down a bit so you can actually see what I'm talking about, all these generators do have spec sheets on how much resistance there is between your rings, your windings, and your brushes, which I do have the brushes up here. So your brushes, so these are the brushes. So for those who don't know, what happens is these two brushes here. So you would have heard of brushless technology. So a lot of drills and battery power tools are now going to brushless. So what a brush effectively does is that you have low voltage on this two poles here. So positive minus of 12 volts going into it. This sits on the top of these wear rings here. Let's see if I can get you a little bit closer so you can see. It would sit on top of these wear rings like so. In there. Now what happens is they're spring loaded, so as they wear down, So basically that allows the electricity or the current to pass through those two brushes onto the slip rings. Now, what happens is that obviously they're pushed in like that. As the brushes wear, there is a spring that's in here, and it just keeps forcing out. It's like a pencil, like the old clicker style pencil. It just keeps forcing out brush until you have no brush. And that can also be a reason as to why generators stop making power, because you don't have any brush to make contact between your low voltage AVR signal and the slip rings there to create a magnetic field. So that's how brushes work, very basically. Unfortunately, like I've said, for this one, it's terminal. That power head's going to go on a long holiday to the recyclers, and we should be able to pick something up fairly easily for this. But engine's in great nick. It's been a good little project, good little learning curve. When I picked it up, I probably could have checked that, but hey, like it's, you know, I'm 120 bucks in on this one. I've got a really good diesel engine, which I could probably sell for, you know, 400 or 500 bucks if I need to. So thanks. So what does that mean? Well, basically this generator I found on Marketplace, where everyone goes shopping. It was very cheaply priced. It was sub $100 Australian. I have basically put $25 of parts on it with that AVR and that other 12 volt little rectifier. Could I have diagnosed this earlier? Yes, I could have. But it also means that I had to pull a fair bit of the power head apart to identify that problem, where getting some parts and putting them on it for $20 or $25, whatever they were delivered, sometimes that fix is worth paying the $20 for. When I tested the new capacitor versus the old capacitor, I did get a much better reading off the new one, so it made me think that possibly that old AVR was crook and no good. So, like I said, engine on this thing is running a treat. It's a great diesel engine, and I'll keep it because I'm gonna do something with it. Whether that's putting a new power head on this if I can or not, I don't know, but it's a great running engine. It's freshly serviced, as you've seen, and it's ready to go. It actually could be good for running like a direct shaft pump or something like that, also for moving water around farm and that sort of thing. But what I would want to do is with a video like this, is show people that Facebook Marketplace is awesome. I buy a lot of stuff off Facebook Marketplace, a lot of projects. You know, you can get some real gems off there. This one here, the engine is worth a lot more than what I've paid for this unit as a whole. If I was to source another power head, there's probably a few $100s in a power head, so I'd probably still be in front doing that. But I want to start a series, which is like a Facebook Marketplace series of buying things and showing you what to look out for, what questions to ask. I'm going to do some screen recording from my phone so that people can sort of see, you know, what to do, what to ask, and what the little gems are that you can find. Again, it's a bit unfortunate this one's not producing power, but that is the name of the game. That's the risk you take when you buy things that are secondhand. This one does look like it's been sitting out in the paddock for quite some time, but the engine's good. That's the main thing. Can't win them all. So I'm going to pack this up for the moment. I'm going to try and source a power head. I'm going to drop this video so that way you guys think that I still love you rather than just ignoring you. But like I said, I'm going to do the videos now, so I've got a bit more start to finish. There's been about 3 weeks, or probably more than that, 4 weeks in this project between me pulling it apart with work. So the ski's still in the background as well. Haven't forgotten about that. There is that little dilemma of parts with that though. So gonna get this back together, pack it up, we'll put it on a pallet rack, get it out the way, and I'm gonna keep my search on for a power head for it and more bargains off Facebook. So thanks for watching. We didn't win this time, but hey, we're still breathing. Sun's out, shining on us. It's going to be a great day. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.